what's up, NFL nerds? We're back with the breakdown and prediction of Super Bowl 54. Alright, now before I get into this, make sure you guys go and subscribe, hit that like button, make sure you leave your opinion in the comment section below, because, obviously, not everybody's gonna agree with this prediction. Obviously, other people are going to have different teams to be in the Super Bowl, especially where I chose two very, very big sleeper teams to make it. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Carolina Panthers. Now, I do already think this is a fun matchup. It's a scary matchup. The Panthers actually faced the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh in primetime in 2018, and that kind of destroyed the Panthers. That was when Cam Newton, got injured, and he just wasn't himself for the rest of the year. And the whole team just went downhill from there. But it's gonna be the next season. It's a new year, new Cam. Obviously there's a lot more Steelers too. Now I want to start by going over some of the key matchups. So starting off with James Conner versus Luke Kuechly. Now, James Conner, during Le'Veon Bell's holdout, he came out as one of the better running backs in the NFL and surprised a lot of people. Obviously, nearly any running back would look good behind the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Any running back would look good there. But James Conner does have a lot of talent. He's not afraid to run through you. And quite frankly, he does run right through you. But he will be matched up with one of, if not the best middle linebacker in the league. I see this being a tough game for James Conner because of Luke Kuechly. He'll still have a, pretty decent game. I could see him possibly being a top 10 running back this next year. At least top 15. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. The next one is Juju Smith-Schuster versus Dante Jackson. Now, this last year, it was actually, James Bradbury on Juju Smith-Schuster because they actually had Dante Jackson and who else was it that was double teaming Antonio Brown? I don't think Dante was single-handedly covering him. Well, trying to. Antonio Brown kind of torched him on a play. But I can't think of who else would have been double teaming him. But this year I think I could see them wanting to double team Juju. I think he will easily be a top 10 receiver. Quite possibly a top 5 receiver. It's hard to say because there's so many more, rising receivers. There's, of course, Julio Jones, there's DeAndre Hopkins, there's Antonio Brown, there's Michael Thomas, there's Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Odell. There's all of these guys. So it's hard to put Juju directly in the top 5, but he will at least be a top 10. And with Big Ben as the quarterback, he'll have a big year. but I think that'll be, a fun game. Um, and then I have Alejandro Villanueva versus Gerald McCoy. Now, this one, I'm not 100% sure that this will be the matchup. We don't know for sure what side Gerald McCoy will be lining up on, or if he'll, be taking on more, like, by the guards, or necessarily where he'll be taking on. But, I see Villanueva as one of the best offensive tackles in the league. Gerald McCoy has consistently been, a pretty top tier defensive lineman for the past few years. I think this could be a fun matchup here. So yeah, now let's get into the stats of it. I see Big Ben being the Steelers' offensive MVP of this game. Now, I actually have offensive and defensive MVPs for both sides, but I will get into at the end who I think the Super Bowl MVP will be. But for the Steelers, I see the offensive MVP being Ben Roethlisberger. For the Panthers, I see it being Christian McCaffrey. For the Steelers, I see the defensive being TJ Watt. And for Panthers, I see Dante Jackson. So I'm predicting Big Ben to throw for 342 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Big Ben plays very well in the playoffs. He's one of those few very tough quarterbacks that stays cool under pressure, has playoff experience, plays well in the cold, and I think he's one of the best playoff quarterbacks you can have. So, obviously, that's going to be a really hard one. For the Panthers, I see Cam Newton having 248 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 48 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. I don't think that's too insane. We've seen Cam run. We've seen him start to at least kind of develop as a passer. But I don't know that he's necessarily to a top tier passer yet. Now, I do see him becoming a little bit more of a pocket passer this next year. I know Norv Turner wants to protect him behind the O-line a little bit more now, but he will still run quite a bit, I think. So, yeah, I see him with 3 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. I think that's a pretty good game. He hasn't been in the playoffs since 2017. He missed 2018. But hasn't been in the Super Bowl since 2015, which really isn't that long ago. I think he realizes his mistakes in that game and will at least have a little bit better of a game. Now I see James Conner having 18 rushes for 88 rushing yards and a touchdown, and then 6 receptions for 49 yards. Like I said, James Conner is developing as a really good running back. I know he's not the biggest, dual threat running back in the league, but he's developing a little bit more into one. He can catch passes from Big Ben. He can, have big plays like that. I think those are pretty reasonable stats for him. I see Christian McCaffrey for the Panthers being the offensive MVP with 16 rushes, 113 yards, and a touchdown. and then 7 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, I'd say, is one of, if not the best, dual threat running back in the league. The only ones I'd put maybe higher than him are Saquon Barkley. I could see Le'Veon Bell if he has a year like he did in 2017. Todd Gurley, depending on his workflow. Let's see. Yeah, I would probably put those two maybe higher than him. I'd say probably Saquon is a better dual threat running back than him. But, I mean, I don't think these stats are unrealistic. We've seen him do it before. I'm sure we'll see him do it again. I think in a game like this where it really matters, I could see it happen. In that last game against the Steelers, he was one of the few really bright spots, and one of the few that, not a lot of people are really talking about, but he had a really good game against the Steelers. I'm not going to look up the stats right now, but yeah, he had a really good game against the Steelers. If I remember right, I think he had all 3 touchdowns for the Panthers in that one. I think he had 1 receiving and 2 rushing. So, I think those are pretty reasonable stats for him. For the Steelers, I see TJ Watt being their defensive MVP. Now, TJ Watt, he actually performs at a level of a top-tier pass rusher. A lot of people sleep on him and don't really see him to be as good as he really is. He had 12.5 sacks in 2018. I don't recall how many tackles or tackles for a loss, but he was a game changer. He was one of the bright spots on that Steelers defense and, ended up making them have one of the best pass rushing defenses in the league. A lot of people aren't talking about him, but he's one of the best pass rushers in the game. So I see him having 7 tackles, a sack and a half, 3 tackles for a loss, and a forced fumble. Now, these are insane stats for one game, especially in a game like the Super Bowl. Yeah. I don't know that we've seen a defensive player dominate that intensely since Von Miller in, 2015. Of course, Cam gets put up against, the better pass rushers in the league, but, it's usually defenses that win championships, so. Now I see Dante Jackson getting somewhere around 6 tackles, a pass deflection, an interception, and 18 yards returned on the interception. He usually got, 5 or 6 tackles per game in 2018. I think he's developing into, a ball hawk type of corner. I think he'll do better at not blowing coverage and not letting his head get to him. I see him having a pretty good game there. So I see him being the Panthers' defensive MVP in this game. So now that I have all the stats predicted, this is the part that you guys have actually been waiting for. I see the Pittsburgh Steelers winning Super Bowl 54 against the Carolina Panthers. I see them winning 34-28. The Steelers will have 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals. Panthers will have 4 touchdowns. I think it's going to be one of the best Super Bowls that there has been in a while, actually. You know, the Super Bowl 53 went down as one of the most boring Super Bowls in history. The one before that, I mean, it was entertaining, especially watching the Patriots lose. But I mean, the one before that, like, it was entertaining. I loved watching. And I mean, it's hard to say this as a Panthers fan because the Falcons were doing so good. But it was fun to watch the Falcons, be up 28-3. And while I don't like them or the Patriots, it almost made me a little upset for the Patriots to come back and win that. I'm not really sure why, because, I'm really not all that big on the Falcons. I think they'll be an extremely talented team this year, but, typically you don't like other teams in your division. But I think this will go down as one of the more entertaining Super Bowls in history, especially recent history. I think it's pretty decent scoring. It's not gonna be a game with a total of 16 points, I don't think it'll be difficult to have a more entertaining game than in 2018. Because I think we can all admit that was a pretty pathetic game. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of this prediction. Please leave your opinion down in the description below. If you disagree, oh well, it's my prediction. It's what I think will happen. Let me know who you think will be in the Super Bowl and who you think will win. Now, also, let me know what you would like me to do for my next series. I've had a lot of people tell me they want me to do top 10 lists. I've had people tell me they want me to do tier lists. I will be doing a mixture of both. But let me know some cool video ideas that you'd like me to do, and I will definitely do that. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching this series. It's meant a lot. I'm currently at 50 subscribers now. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, leave a like, and I'll see you next time. See you later.